Section 9.1.21. In a survey of 2,065 adults in a certain country conducted during a period of economic uncertainty, 53% thought that wages paid to workers in industry were too low. The margin of error was 5% points with 90% confidence. For parts A through D below, which represent a reasonable interpretation of the survey results? For those that are not reasonable, explain the flaw. Now for part A, it says we are 90% confident that 53% of adults in the country during the period of economic uncertainty felt wages paid to workers in the industry were too low. Now, is this interpretation reasonable? Well, the interpretation is flawed because the interpretation provides no interval about the population proportion. Okay? So we need an interval to be able to interpret what's going on with the population proportion. For part B, it states that we are 85 to 95% confident that 53% of adults in the country during the period of economic uncertainty felt wages paid to workers in industry were too low. Is this interpretation reasonable? Well, the interpretation is flawed because the interpretation indicates that the level of confidence is varying. Okay, we are going from 85 to 95%. We need 1%, one specific percent that's confident to that. So because it's varying, that means we have too many here from 85 to 95%. So therefore, the interpretation is flawed there. Okay, so in part C, it states that we are 90% confident that the interval from 0.48 to 0.58 contains a true proportion of adults in the country during the period of economic uncertainty who believe wages paid to workers in industry were too low. Well, we have a 90% confidence with an interval that's ranging from two values there, so we can say that this interpretation is reasonable. Now for part D, it says in 90% of samples of adults in the country during the period of economic uncertainty, the proportion who believe wages paid to workers in the industry were too low is in between 0.48 and 0.58. Now, is this interpretation reasonable? Well, it's flawed because the interpretation suggests that this interval sets the standard for all the other intervals, which is not true.